Yeah, and I was going to say this at the end, but I'll say it now in case someone leaves. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out, this is Lev's last meeting with us. We've loved having him work with us for the past year and a half. He's been great. He's been our full-time organizer here at ACT. He'll be leaving us at the end of August to pursue some new opportunities. He recently got his master's degree at Georgetown. Many of you were at the meeting, I think 2 months ago, where he presented his thesis. It was great. So we really enjoyed having Lev here, and we're going to miss him a lot. So I guess round of applause for Lev. Good stuff. All right, now to introduce our speaker and his friend tonight. So I'm going to try and get through this out without Lev. We'll see. NIMBY, an industrious bee with a passion for 1950s land use planning, is renowned for his tireless efforts in safeguarding the character of his neighborhood. Born and raised amidst the bustling apiaries of Tacoma Park, Maryland, NIMBY has emerged as a worthy adversary of any and all change, including development, bike lanes, and the influx of new residents. With a keen eye for detail and a buzzing determination, NIMBY, alongside his beekeeper, Hani Combs, tirelessly patrols the streets of his community, ensuring that every flower bed remains untouched and every hive remains undisturbed. His unwavering dedication to the principles of tradition and stability have earned him the respect and admiration of his fellow NIMBYs far and wide. In addition to his activism, NIMBY is an avid gardener, spending his days pollinating flowers and nurturing the natural beauty of his surroundings. While not buzzing around on his noble crusade, NIMBY can often be found enjoying the simple pleasures of life, such as making organic honey, basking in the warm glow of his worldwide popularity on social media. So please help me welcome NIMBY.
Hello, my name is Hani Combs, and I'm here to read a speech prepared by NIMBY, who can't speak because, well, he's a bee. NIMBY, he was right behind me. Hey, NIMBY! You gonna come out? Folks, this happens every once in a while. It's okay. He's used to arguing with people online, has never had to confront his opposition. So what I like to do, I do like a little buzzing sound to make him feel more at home. So if everybody can just kind of start buzzing, and that'll get him going. So bzzz, a little louder, a little louder. Seems to be working. There he is. See, it's okay, NIMBY. Come on out. All right. Welcome, NIMBY, everybody. What's this? You want me to do the intro song? We're not going to do the intro song. All right. Ooh, sorry, NIMBY likes to have intro music when he performs. All right, go ahead. Sorry, he's very particular about how he enters a room. Okay, ready? Okay, I got it. Don't worry. All right, here we go. You're simply the best. All right, that's enough of that. All right, please welcome Montgomery County's famous neighborhood character, NIMBY. All right, this is the part where NIMBY's speaking, or NIMBY is talking, but I'm speaking. Hi, I'm NIMBY. You might recognize me at your local community meetings, protesting new development in your neighborhood, fighting bike lanes and public transit on social media, and as the most eligible bachelor on Bumble. For all you outsiders, welcome to Silver Spring. I'm glad you found a parking space in this crime-infested urban hellscape. If you didn't already know, Silver Spring was recently named the #1 place to live for families. That's right, families. Don't you childless single people come here and start changing it with your bike lanes and one-bedroom luxury apartments. It's a great honor to enter this hornet's nest of developer shills and urbanist tweeters to be-splain some common sense. But before I continue my amazing TED Talk that will prove your organization has it all wrong, I want to take a moment of silence to remember the senseless murders of Georgia Avenue and University Boulevard's rightmost driving lanes, as they were recently tragically converted to bus-only lanes this past year, and also the Tasty Diner just a few blocks away. When I heard about this so-called ACT meeting, I made a beeline to get here to put you all in your place. But before I tell you why you're wrong about everything, I'd like to thank your president, Sean Emerson, for inviting me, Elon Musk for giving me back my freedom of speech on Twitter, and Dwight D. Eisenhower for creating the interstate highway system that brought me here today. Back to the matter at hand. I'm from Tacoma Park. If you haven't heard of it, good. We don't want you moving there. I'll describe Tacoma Park in the way that I believe you transit lovers will understand. Tacoma Park is known as the Berkeley of the East. I believe they say that because only wealthy people can afford to live there. Over the past 40 years, me and my fellow NIMBYs have successfully stung every proposal that tried to slow down how fast I can drive through town, except of course on the street that I live on. Through carefully calculated sting operations, we successfully blocked new bike lanes on Maple Avenue, stopped all new development, and protected precious parking spaces throughout the city. This advocacy by me and my fellow NIMBYs has rewarded us single-comb hive owners with a sweet, sweet return on our investment. Honey equity, if you will. We also have a great single-family historic district with wealthy long-term homeowners who swarm to protect our metro station from more people who want to use it. My method of stinging organizations like yours with endless community meetings and impact studies became so popular, I've been invited to conferences all over the country to lecture about the perfection of 1950s-era suburban planning. But I wasn't always an angry bee protecting my single insect honeycomb in one of the most exclusive enclaves of our nation's capital. And that story is why I'm here today, to fight even more change. Density and public transit is not the bee's knees. I should know because I grew up in a very overcrowded hive, working for an angry queen who we didn't even elect. It was a dense honeycomb with overcrowded conditions. Crime was rampant as we were attacked daily by other insects trying to steal our honey that we worked our abdomens off to make. And worst of all, there was no parking. Afraid for my life, I did what so many other wasps did in the 1960s. I fled to the suburbs. Getting out of that overcrowded hive is the best thing I ever did. Far away from the hustle and bustle, I now spend my afternoons in my quiet neighborhood, brewing craft mead, practicing my carpenter bee skills, and writing angry posts on Nextdoor about how I want to live near everything but next to no one. Unfortunately, my peaceful hive is now under attack. My quiet suburb with an easy commute has now turned into an urban hellscape as the Purple Line construction has exceeded the allowable decibel level posted in our noise ordinance and created traffic jams and potholes. Folks, I know we've invested billions of dollars and several years already, but that doesn't mean we can't just slow things down and rethink this proposal. We need more time for environmental impact studies on how precious wildlife, bees, and even rare species like arthropods will be affected by construction. Our former governor, Larry Hogan, proved that the cost of pausing the Purple Line was priceless. But enough about politics. I'm not a partisan bee, as I am both left and right-winged. In summary, you YIMBYs need to stop shoving your public transit advocacy down our thoraxes. Please respect my fellow NIMBYs who have lived here longer than everyone else and therefore have more say in our democracy. If you think you can come here and take away my free parking and lay tracks on my highways, you can buzz off and mind your own beeswax. We will swarm to protect our low-density hives at all cost. Thank you for letting me sting you with the truth, and like I always say, together we can make a difference by fighting to keep everything the same. Thank you. NIMBY has some gifts to give you. Hold on one second, I'll be right back. Here, you can kind of reach in there and pass those out. All right, he's got little, I'll be right back. I heard there was a beekeeper here. I missed it. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. I know a lot of you. My name is Eric Saul. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I always forget this part. I'll repeat that. My name is Eric Saul. I created NIMBY and a satirical site called the Tacoma Torch. And I'm just here to talk about that experience and what the last couple of years has been like doing this, and how it's been sort of an effective tool of combating NIMBYism, but also promoting development, much needed housing, bike lanes, transit stuff, everything that everyone in this room pretty much fights for. So my background, I'm an architect. I've lived in this area for 20 years. I moved here in 2004. I used to work right near downtown Silver Spring. We used to walk here to lunch back when we had like Austin Grill, when this place was first started. We used to often eat at Wheaton Metro or at the Wheaton Mall for lunch because there wasn't a whole lot of options here. And then this happened, and it was just nice to have a place to go to have a lot of options. So I've seen all of this growing around, and it's really cool, from the turf that used to be out here that we really loved to and what's now a great space as well. I've been sort of battling NIMBYism for a long time. Being an architect, the company I worked with at the time, we did a lot of mixed-use buildings where we had retail on the ground levels and apartments above, and we did a lot of projects in suburban Montgomery County. And 20 years ago, it was very scary for people to really understand what something taller than 2 stories was going to feel like. You did a 5-story building in downtown Wheaton, and people freaked out. They'd never saw anything like that before. You're going to ruin the neighborhood, all that kind of stuff. So I got a first taste in the professional world of what it was like to just propose what we thought were very normal things that any place with a metro station should have. I moved to Tacoma Park probably 3 years later in 2007, and we were proposing a dog park, something very easy that I thought would just be a very simple project. And I learned that there were more dogs than children in Tacoma Park. And no matter where we tried to put this dog park, people fought it away. They didn't want to hear dogs barking. They didn't want to hear the noise. But they all wanted a dog park. We just didn't know where we could put the dog park. So that was like my real first taste of NIMBYism, like super local. And then just being in Tacoma Park and in the area, seeing proposals like a 2-story building on a parking lot, and watching the community just sort of freak out over these relatively simple projects in my mind. It started kind of eating at me, and find myself, and I'm sure a lot of people here did that, just arguing with people online or just having these sort of like serious discussions and not getting anywhere. Really ineffective discussions of like, well, here are the facts. Well, they have their facts and we have our facts. It's just not a very interesting conversation. So I just created this satirical website, the Tacoma Torch, which kind of started as more of a, making fun of local Tacoma Park politics. And it just got really effective. People liked it. It made sense. It was just, funny. And I found the humor was conveying the message a lot better than me just arguing on Twitter with somebody or Facebook. And so it really took off. Then the idea of NIMBY came just a couple years ago. I don't know, just literally a play on words. I'm not a mastermind. I just came up with this concept, thought it was funny. I thought it was just gonna be a one-time bit. Ordered this costume from China for like $150. It's falling apart, as you can see. It's probably the most, I'm an environmentalist and this thing is not good. You don't want to be inside that suit. But I knew it was going to be big when I posted about it on Twitter, and people started sending us money. And they're like, you need to make this happen. And we were getting $50, $20, People from all over were just throwing money at us to make this happen. So I knew we had something. And then we unleashed NIMBY in the first, the Tacoma Park Parade right after COVID. They hadn't had it for a couple years. And we just drove him down the street, and it was a huge hit. People were talking about it like crazy on Twitter. People were asking for us to show up at events. In the last couple of years, like we spoke at YIMBY Town in Austin in February. Just today, I got an invite from DC Bike Expo. They want us to be there in September. We're getting all kinds of really cool experiences. I don't pay this guy to join me, and we don't make any money doing this, but it's just fun to do. It's like our advocacy work. Some people ask me, why don't you monetize it? I don't really know how. I don't know if I want to. I just want to pay for our trips because this is fun, and we're also getting a message out. So we've just had really good success. And then just doing this for the last couple of years, I've just learned how effective it is. Satire as a tool, like I said, is very effective in getting that message across. I'm a very logical, rational sort of arguer. So when we talk about like housing and numbers and stats and all that, that doesn't quite reach a broad audience, I find. And so you tend to bore certain people, or you just fall on deaf ears for certain people. But somehow like this orange or this yellow thing is just so like inviting to people. It's actually just like reaches a huge audience because people don't even know what NIMBY is, or the term NIMBYism. So they'll just come up to us on the street and be like, what are you? What are you doing? And we have a conversation about it. Shocking for me. We have a lot of work to do to like convince people to change their minds. So anyway, thank you all for coming. I'm here for Q&A if you want to ask me some questions. And but anyway, thank you so much for inviting us. It's just fun to bring NIMBY out and talk about the issues. This is what we like doing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, NIMBY, for being here. This is wonderful. Most entertaining acting I've been done. Yes, just do some Q&A. Just go around the room. Please just kind of pass it around.
This is more of a suggestion than a question, but you know the the place where you know that the word NIMBY was invented in Montgomery County.
We had this conversation.
Yeah. It's in the building at on River Road. There's a big condo building that has offices, or had offices on the first ground floor and second floor. And I actually, before I moved down here, it was invented by Walt Roger and Joe Lieberman, who were nuclear waste consultants. And I was working at a consulting company in Boston on nuclear waste, and actually started working for them with them around a year after the word was 6 months or a year. It would be like 1978. And I really believe that there should be a historic marker in front of the building.
I agree.
And
I agree.
it seems like that's more something for you guys.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Oh,
I know
that's a good idea.
I know we've talked about this.
Yeah,
we'll definitely give more thought.
Yeah, we'll
give more thought.
You know, because we can use some of the historic designation proposals for like the parking lot in Cleveland Park, and the parking lot right out here at the corner. You know, there's the historic protected parking lot. You know, right here at the corner of George and Colesville. You know, explain why this is historic. And I wouldn't go so far as to say the building should not be torn down, but there should be a historic marker in front. And I'm sure highway administration people would find that historic marker request very interesting to deal with.
Eric, could you talk about the problems you had trying to get your ADU development going in Tacoma Park? I unfortunately missed that event. When you hear your spiel,
The ADU, and like the struggles in general, like the ADU meaning like the struggles in general. Like,
yeah, but especially that particular development, roadblocks were put in your way, especially once they passed the ADU bill, there's still problems.
Yeah, let me go back to. Let me get back to you on that one later, because like, let me do that at the end, because like I have to go back and kind of refresh my memory on some of the details. So yeah, because I've had a bunch of different projects, and I'm trying to remember which one you're talking about, but we'll talk about it at the end. Yeah.
Very clever and creative. How deeply do you dive into the issues, and like, how much do you write about and perform on, and like, what's your kind of geographic focus?
Yeah, I mean, geographically here, obviously, just we live here, so it's easy to do stuff here. But we've been getting some requests to come out to Ann Arbor, Michigan, to go into Charlottesville, San Francisco. So we did Austin, Texas this year. That was a big one. It costs like a couple $1,000s to go do a weekend trip with a couple people and hotels and flights and everything, and they give you a $200 speakers fee, right? So we have to sort of balance like how much money we make. But we do these little plushies that we're throwing out. We do like fundraisers and sell those kind of things to raise money for a trip. But we're looking to expand, and I think this has a broad appeal. So our followers, though, on Twitter and on social media are all over the place. We've shipped that plushie to Canada. I mean, people order them from all over the place, and they are really into this. We've gotten requested to come to Canada, but that was way too expensive. But in any case, we're looking to expand and take NIMBY everywhere. I don't know if we're gonna like have multiple NIMBYs and like franchise it or anything like that, but but it'll just be us, running around and having fun. But yeah, we're hoping to, go to different areas. Jacob Day, who's the housing secretary here in Annapolis, he wants us to come to Annapolis and do some stuff with him. So there's a lot of opportunity. It's just growing. The interest just keeps growing. It's amazing. So.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, sorry, just make sure. Well, thank you, and NIMBY for coming here today. I know it's quite funny to see how NIMBY reacts. So if NIMBY has been advocacy just to make sure to increase pedestrian safety is because there's been pedestrian safety incidents going on in Montgomery County, just because I remember I've been to the town hall in 2019 and the rally in 2020. Especially, I also went to the one in 2022 when Council Member Evan Glass hosted, because many residents has been dealing with this challenging going on of the pedestrian safety, and especially back in 2019 when Larry Hogan's planning to widen 270, and a lot of residents are extremely concerned about that, if it's going to affect the neighborhood across in Montgomery County if I-270 was wide. So how will you and NIMBY be able to advocacy to make sure pedestrian safety is safe, and especially I-270 wide doesn't happen?
Yeah, I mean, our advocacy is more like mocking opposition. So we don't go there and fight for things. We kind of mock the opposition to that. So if we were going to go to a rally to promote safety, we would kind of mock the people there who didn't want the good things, right? So if they wanted the highway widened, we would kind of join their side satirically and talk about how great it is to widen the freeway and ruin all the neighborhoods, right? So we don't really do exactly sort of like pro stuff. We're more of a comedy group that makes light of situations, but also like doing so in a way that makes that side look bad and helps the good guys, if you will.
Hold on a second.
Oh,
Well, a couple things. One, were you in Arlington recently when they did the whole missing middle
things, and there were people who were opposing that.
We were going to go. Go ahead, finish your.
Two, also, I guess I just also am wondering, like, what would you say would be the biggest hurdle? Like, why do you think NIMBYism is easily, suppressed when it's like, because when there are people who are advocating against a highway being widened, why is that so easy? Do you think that is more easy to be suppressed in this country compared to like people who are advocating against not having a railway station or a new rail or bus service? And then three, do you mind elaborating? Okay, fine.
I can do a third later. Yeah. Yeah. So to answer your question about Arlington, we were invited to go to that. They do their things early in the morning on a Saturday, and I'm a baseball player. I'm on a team. I had a game that day, I think, or that morning, so we couldn't go. But we were in talks with some of those groups down there, and they wanted us to go. So, but yes, we were kind of paying attention, and we were sort of mocking that stuff on Twitter, and we kind of did things online to make fun of it. Your other question broader question about, I guess if I were to rephrase it, you're asking why is it easier to widen a freeway than to build a train, basically build tracks? I think, to be honest, like, we get comfortable with our lives and change is hard, right? So NIMBYism is a lot about just not wanting to change because it's scary, for a lot of people. And so when you've been riding, to work every day, the same path and the same thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, this is going to change. It does throw people off, and so that's what I believe is the driving factor. People they buy into a neighborhood and they think this is what it's going to be like the rest of their life, and change is hard, So I don't agree with that, but I sympathize a little bit.
Thanks, Eric. I have a quick question. Has NIMBY ever encountered any hostility from actual NIMBYs? Has he ever been rejected by his own kind?
Yeah,
out in the field?
Yeah, he tries so hard. He gets some middle fingers here and there. He gets some comments, but he always takes it very well. He's the nicest person, nicest bee ever. Sorry, and NIMBY will give a hug to a fellow NIMBY, and they will reject it, but he offers it. So he's got a heart of gold. We totally disagree with him, but he does have a heart of gold. He's very sweet. Haha. Oh, I just invented him. I don't know. He got shipped to my house in a box, and from China, and then the rest is history. Are you talking about me or the person inside of the costume? Are you talking about NIMBY or the person inside of it? Okay, yeah.
So, when you started your activism, you mentioned you kind of started out doing a lot of online arguing. What were the challenges in transitioning that online energy and bringing it into more real world and public spaces?
I've always been sort of into comedy a little bit and sort of sarcasm. I'm a very sarcastic person, for those who know me. So that was part of it. So probably like the big one I can remember that sort of changed everything was in Tacoma Park. There was a parking lot that was going to turn into a 2-story building potentially, and the whole town almost had a civil war over this one building on a parking lot. It was ridiculous. And we would go to these, city council meetings that when I would go to these things, maybe this is the amount of people that would go to this auditorium. But for that building, the room was packed in like a 400-seat auditorium and people standing. I mean, this one development was clearly like the biggest issue Tacoma Park had ever heard of. And so I just found that hilarious, how like this one little simple building turned into
Parks and Rec episode?
Exactly. I think watching Parks and Rec too was really helpful to get through that as part of to answer your question. It just helped me sort of like make light of it all because there's just a lot of ridiculousness in small town politics, and I call it Tacoma Park small town. So we made bingo cards. At the thing, we didn't really use the term NIMBY at the time. Like this was like 10 years ago, but we made these cards. We just called it like Tacoma Junction Bingo. And there's just certain phrase words that like, you know, lack of parking or think of the children, or certain phrases that were always used. And so we did that and we played it in the council meeting. And whoever won had to yell, even if they interrupted, bingo. And I unfortunately won. And I just remember yelling bingo and then just hiding in my chair. But anyway, so we just had fun with it, and that just turned into, and there's other people were also involved. So humor's fun with friends, right? So if it's just me telling jokes, no one laughing, it's not great. So doing this with other people, it was really fun. We sort of had the same message. We liked that we were sort of mocking this in a very fun-spirited way. So we kind of came together and started forming this stuff. And the Tacoma Torch was kind of born, not just me, with me and like 3 friends. And we were just writing articles together and putting it out there. So anyway, it just, yeah, just experiencing like absurdness and trying to like sort of get through it. It's tough, but we made it through. Maybe.
Yes, I'll ask a question. So is there a NIMBY character, like a Superman with a big Y on his chest? And will there be a wrestling match eventually? I'd love to see. I would love to see.
Well, it already happened. So
Yeah.
we created NIMBY a few months ago.
Okay.
And we have a video of them fighting each other on Twitter. So I went, oh shoot, can we get it on here?
I doubt it. But
I think it's on YouTube.
We'll post it on.
Yeah, we'll do it later. Yeah, but anyway, so we created NIMBY as like just another character. We thought it was funny. We brought her to the Tacoma Park Parade as well. So she was leading the parade. She was doing bike advocacy in the front, and then NIMBY followed her in a big truck, just doing the exact opposite. She's sort of the punchline, or so she's like the setup to his punchline. So by herself, she's not really funny. I mean, because we're not really making fun of NIMBYs, we're making fun of NIMBYs. So she always does something, and then NIMBY tries to fight her. So it's spy versus spy kind of humor.
hold on a second.
For other people, for neighborhood meetings that may or may not be extremely painful when talking about things like Thrive, to try to make it more lighthearted, or get people to change their minds, like you said, facts don't work.
Yeah, that's a very tough one. Depends on the audience, obviously. We've had some success and some failures. So one thing we always try to do is never attack an individual, except for like someone's like a politician or something like that. That's kind of fair game. But we don't attack like, I'm just making up a name, like Jane Smith in the room. We'll attack the idea, and we'll say like, this is not good. We shouldn't do this policy, or we shouldn't, But saying like, I see a lot more of this person is a developer shill, or this specific person gets paid by, and we don't like hearing that, so we shouldn't do it back to them. So try to attack the idea and not the person, or remove the specific person you're mad at, or the person's mad at you from the argument. That helps. In terms of bringing humor, that's kind of a tough one. I'm not like a professional stand-up comedy guy at all. This is like a big experiment for me. Case by case basis, I could probably help, but anyway, we just try to remember like keep it clean, no low blows, that kind of thing. So yeah.
I have another question. Will NIMBY be riding the purple line when it is built?
Oh, that's a good.
Oh,
he's coming. We're gonna drag him on the purple line when it comes out.
No.
Kicking and screaming, he will be on the purple line.
No, I'm very disappointed.
There you go.
So you've been doing this for a while, and as over that time, polarization in the country, even in this area, has gotten worse. And I think some of it is on the dimension of change, and people being really resistant to it.
Yeah.
And it's not really even a left-right issue. It's really like, I'm uncomfortable with change, or I don't understand the risk of change. Have you thought it in that kind? I mean, are you experiencing that? Do you think that's
absolutely.
something? Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely that. So you know, we're in our own ways, we're kind of semi-NIMBY about certain things. You know, I think it's like a spectrum of NIMBYism, where some of us are 99% YIMBY, some of us are like 80%. So, you know, there's certain comfortable things that we have in our neighborhoods that we like. And, you know, nothing is, how do I say this? You know, we really focus on sort of like the obvious stuff. So I'm trying to think of a specific issue where someone said, hey, you guys should attack this particular thing. And I was like, well, I'm on the fence about that thing. I think a lot of people are. I don't think that argument should be attacked. Let's do more of a broader picture thing, like things that we clearly are divided on, like more housing versus no housing, you know, affordable housing versus, you know, blocking development. Those are like sort of very clear ones. When it comes down to like, hey, there should be a stop sign on this street, you know, that's too kind of like small to sort of turn that into something. So it's a hard question to answer, sort of, but we try to, I don't know, we try to like just make light of the topic as well. We try not to keep it funny. We do insult people, don't get me wrong. It can be very insulting, but I think of NIMBY as more like a mirror. So we don't say anything that they're not already saying. We're just using bee puns to say it. So like I said, we held up a sign that said bikers against bicyclists, and we thought we were being ridiculous. They held the same sign up. So I'm like, well, who's really ridiculous here? So it's kind of, we're just showing themselves in a mirror, and they don't like it, which is very fascinating. So if they don't like what they're seeing in the mirror, that's their issue. So anyway, I don't know if that answered your question. It was a hard one.
Sorry, this is my third question from earlier. So, what would you? Why would you say that there? Because when you mention places like, you know, Berkeley and Tacoma Park being like the epitome of NIMBYism, you know, would you, you know, why is it that, you know, these really, what the outside world really sees as these, you know, far left, you know, very liberal progressive enclaves? Why do you what makes them so much extremely NIMBYist, so to speak, in a way that makes it, even despite the fact that they claim to be very progressive and willing to change and things like that? And how would you say Congressman Raskin is doing at, you know, addressing concerns of NIMBYism?
You asked me 2 questions and you cheated. All right, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll do 3 and 4. I'll do 3 and 4.
I didn't mean to sneak that in.
So this has like been a very big puzzle for me for many years, because, you know, when you hear about the hippies of Tacoma Park and Berkeley, you know, they were all about fighting the man, right? And sort of, you know, everybody should be heard, and we're different, but we should be included in that conversation. And that's what I believe the hippie movement sort of really rallied behind, is us too, right? And now hippies got a little bit of money and some nice houses and some property, and all of a sudden, us only. Like they started sort of saying, well, we were the correct movement. And I'm not saying all hippies, I'm just saying in these neighborhoods, particular people, you know, they got a little bit of power and a little bit of wealth, and they forgot those principles. And now they're forgetting that when you say all of us are included in the conversation, that's everybody. That's just not your voice. So sometimes they, you know, are not welcome to, you know, different political views, even on the opposite side, right? If you're going to say you have to listen to us too, well, then you have to also listen to the opposite side. And Tacoma Park, in no sense, has hardly any conservatives there to listen to. It's amazing how many Democrats disagree with each other in Tacoma Park, but they're just unwilling to sort of listen to those concepts, and that's been the most like challenging, puzzling part, is like why. So I think they're just forgetting who they were, to be honest, and we do that, I guess. As far as what Jamie Raskin has done, I don't know. I don't really follow him on NIMBYism and YIMBYism. I think he's a good congressman. I support him. You know, he's done a great job in terms of like overall. He hasn't been super vocal on housing issues, but I don't think his job requires him to be honest. He's just not dealing with that. He's working on putting Trump in jail. So So that's also very important.
A couple more questions.
Yeah, so we'll do. Tina has one more question, and then maybe back to the ADU topic to wrap up.
Two questions, please. One, when you take NIMBY to a conference, what does NIMBY do? And question two, has NIMBY ever held a press conference?
Have we done a press conference? I don't think so. I don't think we've ever done a press conference. I think we've done stuff like this, but we've never done an actual, like, I'd have to be there to, or sorry, Honeycombs would have to be there to speak for him, wherever he might be. But yeah, that's interesting. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
I just wondered, what does NIMBY do at a press conference when you're invited to a conference?
Oh yeah, so a lot of times we'll do our skit and then we'll hang out afterwards. People take a lot of photos with him. So if you guys want to hang around and get a selfie with NIMBY, we try to ask you to just hashtag, NIMBY on social media if you're going to put it up. And then sometimes we sell merch, little things if we're at a conference or whatever. But yeah, it's really just, people love getting a selfie with them. It's so fun.
Chris, you may have a last question. So I guess the ADU topic to wrap up.
Yeah. We could do it. I'm just trying to remember which project, because I know we talked about a lot of different ADU things. House.
Not the one on Cedar.
Let's chat on the side, because I'm just. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Was that Zinnia? The one on Potomac Avenue, near Piney Branch. Yeah, so we had, so that particular one, it was one of the very first ADUs I ever did. And we had to get a variance for an ADU because they wrote the law to say, they had an existing garage, and the rule is if you just use it and you don't make any exterior changes, you can use it as an ADU. Well, this one it needed like windows popped in for like egress windows. So we had some exterior changes, and we thought, well, if we're just going to change a couple things, let's also take the roof that was kind of like this and make it like that and get some storage up there, because there was literally no storage in these tiny little ADUs. So we made like a little lofted storage area. And so we went through the Board of Appeals process and they approved it. Well, the neighbor came along and brought 3 other neighbors to the Board of Appeals process, and they fought the whole time. We won unanimously, even though all the neighbors around it fought it. The neighbor didn't stop. He took my client to circuit court, lost. He filed an appeal at the appeals, whatever. It just kept going. Luckily, my client, she's a lawyer and didn't have to pay money to do this, where the neighbor next door, I guess, shelled out a lot of money to fight this thing. We won every step along the way, but during construction, they would call the EPA and complain about stuff. They call the permit office about things that were they thought were not to code. They just kept harassing the client, basically. So it got built. It held their relatives live in it, their older relatives, and it's great. But it was one of the first detached ADUs of all Montgomery County. So, but it was a struggle, especially when all the neighbors were sort of ganging up on it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a very good point. Cool.
Well, if they have more questions, please just ask him afterwards. I just want to say thank you to Eric/Han, and thank you to NIMBY for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Just quick announcements. NIMBY doesn't mind sticking around for some selfies. Maybe just line up on that side, a little more space over there, and then the banners there too.